Kodi add-ons aren't doing very well right now. Kodi's in a weird stage where Kodi's doing really well, but the add-ons, it's not what it used to. Everybody and their dog can't have Kodi or Kodi streaming box, and us all to expect that we're still going to be able to watch movies like we did 3 years ago. It's just not going to work. So we have to find other alternatives. Everybody's sick of add-ons working 1 minute and down another. While most of us already have a Netflix and other streaming platform subscription, I want to watch things I like. I don't want to watch Bright. Bright fucking sucks. So I thought I would make a video on Plex. Now, I'm by no means the first person to make a video on Plex and how to set up Plex, but on every one of those videos, especially the ones that are including hardware with the installation, they always have one thing in common. They're always using a fairly high-powered rig. If you have $2,000 to spend on a rig, especially a media server, you're probably not hurting. The average person could just take that $2,000 and just go buy the movies. Apple TV will rent you a movie for $3.99. I'm after the cheap asses watching the video. Now, regardless of whatever you are running Plex on, if you actually have a $2,000 rig and you're looking to install Plex, this video will absolutely help you, provided you want to use Ubuntu server. Now, why are we using a Linux server distro rather than a desktop? I'm choosing Ubuntu server because it's so light. You can squeak a lot more performance out of an older machine than if you were to use something like Windows. Windows is great for Plex, if you can spare the system resources. Everybody has an older machine lying around. Whether it's a laptop or a desktop, it doesn't matter. So I set out on a mission. I'm going to create the cheapest Plex media server I possibly can that will run Plex flawlessly. So this is what I did. I took a trip to the local recycling center with an armful of old computer crap, and when the attendant wasn't watching, I raided her laptop in. I took a few of the newest looking laptops I saw and skedaddled on out of there. I really was hoping for better, but my laptop heist needed to be quick, and the best one I managed to grab was a Gateway MS2317. This high-performance Lightning Cat is sporting an Intel B950 2-core chip, 4 gigs of RAM, and a sweet 320GB hard drive. Now, Plex recommends that you have a CPU mark of 2000 for every stream that you want to use. So if you have 2 people streaming, they recommend that you have a CPU mark of 4000. The B950 comes in at a whopping 1713. Recommendations are recommendations. Now, you've probably been watching this video so far and looking at this laptop motherboard and asking yourself, why? Why wouldn't you just leave it in the case? For one, that would make a crappy thumbnail. And 2, the screen was smashed. I find it highly unlikely that every laptop that they get has a smashed screen, but everyone in the bin had a smashed screen. So they do it on purpose. Why? I don't know. But I couldn't use the screen anyway, so I might as well have just taken it out. And now you're probably asking yourself, well, what about the cooler? Well, for one, it looks pretty cool. And 2, now I don't have to listen to a laptop fan screaming at 12,000 RPM. This thing, totally cooled passively. And I think that's pretty neat. And before anybody leaves a comment, yes, the video chip got a heatsink. It's just not in the video. I didn't record this build because every laptop's different, everybody has different tools, nobody's going to be able to replicate this exact build on this exact laptop, so why bother? Most people are just going to leave it in their case anyway if they're using a laptop, so I didn't really feel it necessary to do the entire build log. You'll need to create a bootable USB drive with the distro on it to install Ubuntu. You can use a CD if you want, but USB is the easiest. In order to download Ubuntu server, just search Ubuntu in Google and go to ubuntu.com, find their downloads tab, and you're going to look for Ubuntu server. I recommend just using the 16 here. It is guaranteed for the longest support. 17 just has more features, but you don't have to worry about it for a Plex server. Click on download. Once it's done downloading, you're going to need 2 other pieces of software. You're going to need SD formatter to format your USB drive, and you're going to need Win32 disk imager. SD formatter, make sure that you choose your drive letter for whatever USB you want to choose. If you have an external hard drive plugged in and you choose that drive letter, it's going to format that drive. So just make sure whatever USB you're using, choose that drive letter. Simple enough, just click format, it'll format the drive. Win32 disk imager, if you can't see, it's always going to look for an image file. So if you can't see the image that you downloaded, say it's like a .iso, you just click all files in the file explorer and it should come up wherever you downloaded that file. Simply click write and wait for it to finish. Now it's time to place your bootable USB into your server and boot it into its BIOS. Restart your server and watch your boot flash screen for your BIOS key Most times it's either F4, F11, or F12, but it could be anything. It could be delete. Just make sure you watch that splash page. If you can't get into your BIOS, just try and find where it says your boot options and choose your boot USB key. Your BIOS will most likely look a little different, but find where it says boot. Now you need to change your boot order off the hard disk, which is probably your first boot priority, to the USB thumb drive with Ubuntu on it. It should be named whatever you named it or the name of the drive's manufacturer. Move the USB drive to the top and then go to exit and choose save and exit. It should reboot into the Ubuntu grub, and then you can just click install Ubuntu server. You should now see something like this. I'll quickly run you through how to install Ubuntu, but basically follow the directions on screen and you should be alright. Here you simply click your language, in this case it's English, and you click your location, in this case it's Canada. Click no for do you want to detect keyboard layout. Click whatever you are, in this case it's English US, and your keyboard layout, again, English US. This is your host name, what you want it to appear on your network. You can name it whatever you want, Plex Media Server, in this case I'm naming it Plex Video. When you see something on your network, this is what it's going to show up as. And now for the installation, it's going to walk you through creating a new user for non-administrative activities. You can make whatever you want. This is the full name. In this case, I just name it STTP, all uppercase. And here's where you make the actual username. Make sure you remember this. In this case, I'm making an STTP. Make sure it's all undercase. And then choose a password. Again, make sure you remember it. Click continue. And just retype it for verification. And click continue. Click no for if you want to encrypt your home directory. Now it's going to find the closest place to you for your time zone. Click yes. If your drive has been used for another operating system, just click yes. When it comes to partitioning, it's your decision. Just in this case, I'm choosing to use the entire disk. And then you choose your hard drive. Not the USB drive, the hard drive. Click yes. Just click continue for this. This is the HTTP proxy. Just leave it blank and click continue. This is for all the server packages that you want. OpenSSH is one of the main ones. You definitely want to install that. That's basically the only one you got to worry about. I'm putting different things for me. Just make sure you have OpenSSH server installed. Once it's done, click continue. Once that installation is complete, it should run through some first-time checks, and then it should boot into your login credentials. It should be asking you for your username and password. Now, if your screen looks like this and it's asking you for login credentials, everything worked as it should. Just remember the username and password that you created before and type them in here. Now, if you're familiar with Linux, you know about terminal commands, and if you don't, you probably don't care and are just following along anyway, so just type what I type on the screen. Just like any OS, you need to make sure that you're up to date, so we're going to type sudo apt-get update and press enter. It's then going to ask you for your password, just type it in and press enter. Once that's done, now we're going to type sudo apt-get upgrade and press enter. Now it's going to ask if you want to continue, type Y for yes and press enter. And finally for the updates, once that's done, type sudo apt-get dist-upgrade and press enter. Again, it's going to ask you for confirmation, just type Y for yes and click enter. And to finish it off, we're going to type sudo space reboot enter, and that's going to reboot the system right back into where you are right now. Now once you're logged in again, it's time to make our directories and folders to hold our media. Like everything else, this too needs to be done via commands. This is done with the mkdir command, mk for make, and dir for directory, followed by whatever you want the directory to be called. In my case, I'm calling it media because inside this will be all of the movies and TV shows for Plex. Once that is done, if I type dir, you can now see that media has been made. Now we need to move into the media directory. To do that, type cd for change directory and media, or whatever you named it. Remember, case matters here. Once inside, we can make other directories. You can name it whatever you want, but I'm going to make one for movies and one for TV. So we type mkdir again, followed by whatever you want to name it, in my case movies, and mkdir TV. Again, if we type dir here, we now see that we have a movies and a TV directory. Now we need to find our device IP address of this server on the home network. To do this, we type ifconfig to get our network information. It should be 192.something. As you can see here, mine is 192.168.1.70. Chances are this is going to be a dynamic IP, which means it can change. That really isn't an issue for me because I use Plex through apps, so it doesn't matter if it changes. It only affects me when I need to change settings or SSH into the server to update it, in which case I just look at the new IP address by looking at my router settings. The IP should stay the same for a while, as your router should be smart enough to always assign the same device IP to the server every time you reboot. Under certain situations, the device IP will switch, however. If you wish to have a static IP, which means it will always be given the same device IP for this server, you can find tutorials on YouTube for how to do that. Now we need to actually install Plex on the server. If you have been doing it like I have, physically on the server, then now would be a good time to talk about SSH. You can always maintain the server by actually working on the server, but that means you will always need to keep a monitor connected. A much better and more efficient way would be to install an SSH client on another computer of the same network, letting you run commands through that computer instead of the actual server. Again, you don't have to, but it just makes this next part that we're going to do a little easier. Use whatever SSH client you like, but I use PuTTY, so that's what I'll be showing. Just Google PuTTY into Google and click the link and install. Full disclosure, I've recorded this video over several weeks, and the server is just for this video so it doesn't stay running. I'll input the local IP that I've referenced previously, but the client will show a different one. It's exactly the same process regardless of IP, and again, yours will be different anyway. Place the IP you found from the ifconfig command in the same bar as I am and press open. Once this pops up, just click yes and you should now see a terminal similar to the one seen previously on the physical server. It will be asking for the same username and password used before, just log in as normal. Now we need to grab the actual Plex file to place on the server. To do this, head on over to the Plex website and find download. Click where it says platform and select Linux, followed by choose distribution. Click the Ubuntu 64-bit version, or 32-bit if that's the distro you chose, and instead of left-clicking to download, we are going to right-click and select copy file location. Paste the path somewhere like your URL bar to make sure that you grabbed the link, and then head back to PuTTY. Once in PuTTY, we're going to type wget space and paste the link. To paste in PuTTY, just right-click and it should paste whatever you have copied. This is where SSH is nice because otherwise you would have to type this all out yourself. It should look similar to this. The version may be different depending on the date you're watching this video, but the process should look similar. Then press enter and it should download the Plex file. Now if we type dir, we can check to make sure the file is on the server. Next is to install the Plex file. We are going to type sudo dpkg, the package management system, -i, Plex media server, ***deb and then press enter. Because we use sudo, it's going to ask you for your password again. Simply enter it, press enter. Once that's done, type sudo reboot to restart the server. Okay, we're on the home stretch. So now hopefully, if everything went as planned, the server should be up and running. To find out, you're going to go to a browser and type your server IP, again, the one you found via ifconfig, and type it in the URL bar, followed by a colon and 32400. 32400 is Plex's port, followed by /web/. Press enter. Learn this, or at least bookmark it, because you're going to need it a lot. So it should look something like this. If you see Plex right now, great, you're almost done. If you don't, you gone done messed up. Make an account or log in with something like Google or Facebook. Once logged in, it should bring you to how Plex works. Once you've read it, if you even care, click Got It. Now it should run server setup and flash the Plex pass page. Just close it for now, but you can read up on it later and see if this is something that interests you. But for right now, you really don't need it. Now you should see your server name that you created. This is a server name on your network again. You should also see an option for allowing Plex outside your network. This is entirely up to you. For this video, I have it off, but on my real server, I have it on. It just lets you watch your media outside your home network. Choose whatever you want and click Next. Now you should see Organize Your Media and Add Library. This is where you're going to point Plex to where you have your files stored. You're just showing Plex where your stuff is. You're not individually choosing files. Click Add Library, and to start, we will click Movies and Next, followed by Browse for Media folder. Now we are in the server. Click the / for your home directory, then Home, then your username. Then whatever you named your media directory, and finally Movies and TV. If you don't see Movies and TV, don't panic. You probably have a Linux permission issue for your drive. YouTube how to fix it and come back, but most shouldn't have a problem with a single drive. Click Movies and click Add, then Add Library. Now you should see Movies. Do the same for TV. Then click Next and Done. It's going to scan your folders for media, but you most likely don't have any yet. I'll show you how to add it soon. Now Plex is running and it knows where you keep your media, but you're going to need media. Open Google and type FileZilla. This is an FTP client, and an FTP client lets you transfer files between client and server over your network. It's a lot easier than placing media on a thumb drive and transferring it every time you want to add a file. Once you have FileZilla or another FTP client installed, it should look something like this. Host is your IP, the one you've always been using. User and password is the same as you've been using, and port should be 22. Enter those and click Connect. This again is your server directories. It allows you to view and change them easily. This here is your server. This is your files on said server, and here are the files on your current machine, the one that the FTP client is running. Now it's time to navigate the file path to your Movies and TV folders. Again, it should be / home, your username, your media or whatever you named it, then Movies or TV. Enter into either of your Movies or TV folder, depending on which you're trying to currently add. Find the file or files you want on the server in your computer and drag and drop them into this box. Make sure again, if they are movies, you are inside the Movies directory. This box down here, this is your transfer box. This is whatever is queued for transfer and is currently transferring. You can add as many files at a time to the server as you want. It will complete each file and move on to the next. Once all of your files are done transferring, go back to Plex in your browser. Click on the triple dot settings and click Scan Library Files. This should update Plex with whatever files you have just added to it, and it should begin finding all the data on that movie or TV show. Once that's done, congratulations. You should be able to see all your media and be able to watch it. An important note to mention with Plex for TV shows is it is extremely picky with naming. If a show and its episodes are improperly named, it just won't show up. Make sure each show has a format that Plex recognizes. For example, whatever show, Season 1, Episode 1. Plex has a lot of settings, and the settings are important to know. You are the one controlling everything from this server, so if it's not running correctly, it's your job to fix it or to change it. Plex gives you a lot of control in the quality that you provide to whatever app or browser is currently playing your content. Make sure you go through the settings and read what each one does. Important ones to look out for are ones such as update my library automatically or periodically. That way you don't have to do it manually every time you add a new TV show or movie. Others are the transcoder. Especially on a lower power machine, this is important. You can limit the amount of simultaneous transcoding going on at any given time. Remember that this is a server connected to the internet. It's easy to forget about it, but it needs to be updated every so often. This is quick and easy to do with SSH. Log in and run the update commands we talked about earlier. Security updates are important for anything. I thought I'd throw a quick tip at the end here. The command df allows you to see how much space is currently left and being used on each drive. This is important if you keep throwing things onto the drive. Eventually it's going to get filled up. This way you can monitor how much space you have left and whether or not you need to add another drive. This is my closing statement about this cheap server. I went into this with not high hopes, but worked some magic in the settings and I was able to squeak as much performance as I could out of this old laptop. Remember, this CPU had a mark well under 2000. And to be honest, I'm impressed. I've had this server simultaneously streaming 2 1080p movies locally with no buffering issues. Plex is very good at doing what it needs to do to serve those files uninterrupted. Obviously, this isn't scalable though. You can't have as many streams going as you want. There's a limit for each machine. Also, there's no way it's going to handle 4K, but for general watching of movies and TV shows on a budget, this thing has far exceeded my expectations. Hopefully this video has helped you. I set out to prove that you don't need a high-end machine to have your own media server. See what you have lying around. You might be surprised on what these low-powered things can do paired with Plex. Thanks for watching this video. If you liked the video, you could leave a comment or a like, and that would be appreciated. And if you like what I do, please subscribe. Thanks for watching.